Am I the antagonist for telling my stepdaughter I am sick of being her backup when her deadbeat dad flakes on her? I am a 55-year-old male, and I met my wife, who is a 49-year-old female, 14 years ago. We have been married for 10 years. When I met her, she was divorced from her first husband for 2 years, and they had a daughter who was 10 at that time. I was never married before, nor have any kids. And my wife and I don't have any kids between us. When I came into their life, my stepdaughter Andrea was clear that I won't be a dad to her because her real dad was active in her life. I guess you can call him active. More deadbeat, jobless, never paid child support. I was okay with this, and my wife, though wished for a more dad-daughter relationship for us, eventually came around and was okay for us to be friends where I was an adult figure in the house. But she handled all parenting decisions with her ex. Eventually, over the years, I stepped up going to her plays, games, and events when her dad flaked or outright went Mia for weeks. She was grateful, and we formed a strong bond. Of course, whenever her dad came around, she threw me to the side, and it did hurt, but I never let her know about it. She went off to college. I paid 30%, and I didn't mind. It was a gift for her from me, and her mom covered the rest, but we drifted a little apart, but I knew she was in touch with her dad whenever he showed up. 7 months back, she announced her engagement to a guy she had been dating for a while, and we were all happy for her. The first thing she told was I wouldn't walk her down the aisle. I didn't expect it. Nor would she dance with. I was a guest as her mom's husband. My wife was very angry, and I was sad she was treating me as a second-class human. But I said fine. Your wedding, your choice. I am not paying for it anyway. Stepdaughter said a bigger man would have, and I told her I guess I am not a big man like her dad. With the wedding 3 months away, we found out her deadbeat dad got arrested for some type of fraud and was most likely headed to jail. Of course, now he will most likely miss the wedding as he's a felon and a loser, and my stepdaughter has been a mess about it. A few days later, she asked me for lunch and said she would love if I walked her down the aisle and how much I meant for her and blah blah. I told her I was sick of her using me as a backup device who had no feelings, and while I had stepped up earlier when she was younger, I won't now, and said thanks for the offer. But I am not interested in being part of the wedding. She exploded, called me names, and ran out of the restaurant. My wife has been kinda cold since, and while she understands where I come from, she wants me to be the bigger man and do what her daughter wants. I am wondering, am I the asshole in my response, and should I just let it go and do the needful so she has a wonderful wedding? It sounds like you've been a supportive figure for your stepdaughter, which is commendable. However, it's also understandable that you have your boundaries and feelings about being treated as a backup. It's important for you to prioritize your own emotions and well-being in this situation, so ultimately, it's up to you to decide what role you want to play in the wedding. Am I the antagonist for holding a grudge against my stepson? My 37-year-old male wife, 34-year-old female, was diagnosed with cancer in November, started treatment later that month, and has just finished chemotherapy. Her follow-up scan is next month. She has 2 children from a previous relationship, 14-11. I have 3 daughters from a previous relationship, and we have no children together. My oldest stepson, 14, has not been around since last January except for a week in July when they went to my in-laws' house for the 4th of July. Once in September when he lied to us about a situation with his friend, trying to convince us to let his friend sleep over at our house on a school night, and over Christmas, to collect his gifts. We waited until after Christmas to tell the kids about my wife's cancer so they could all enjoy their holiday. When we told the boys, neither of them asked any questions, neither of them said much at all, but when the oldest finally did speak, all he said was, "I want Chick-fil-A. Take me home before you go get it." We were out for a drive when my wife broke the news. He then called his grandmother and had her come pick him up, taking his gifts with him despite being told that his new things were for our house, not for his father's house. We have not seen my stepson since. He has not called, not texted, not visited, nothing. There have been other issues over the years with him telling outrageous lies to his father and the school guidance counselor that even resulted in Child Protective Services visiting our home on more than one occasion. Every time they closed the case without incident, based on our interviews, and what our other kids said how they acted during the visits. A few days ago, my wife mentioned that she was upset about her son not being around in general, but that it was particularly rough to have not seen or heard from him while she was literally battling stage 4 cancer. I stated that while I am not one to hold a grudge, and I'm not, that this was going to be hard for me to get over, and I was going to continue to be frustrated about this for a long time. I have always been frustrated with him for how he treats his mother, but this really was the straw that broke the camel's back. My wife then told me that if she is not mad about it, that I am not allowed to be either. But I am, and I'm not going to just not be mad about this. This is a 14-year-old person, someone far old enough to understand what he is doing and how hurtful his actions are. This is not a young child that doesn't know what cancer is or understand that treatment is hard, and that he very well may lose his mother. For a while, I did think maybe he was avoiding it out of fear, but he has been refusing to see his mother or anyone else in the family for well over a year because he was punished for lying and his 0.98 GPA. So, am I the asshole for holding a grudge against my stepson? It's completely understandable to feel frustrated and hurt in this situation, especially considering the circumstances. While it's important to consider your wife's perspective and feelings, it's also valid for you to have your own emotions and struggles with the situation. It may be helpful to communicate openly and seek support to navigate through these complex emotions without harboring resentment. Am I the antagonist for struggling to interact normally with my niece and nephew? I am a 25-year-old female diagnosed with autism, Asperger's. My niece and nephew are 1-year-old and 4 years old respectively. I struggle to interact with them. I freeze up and have difficulty speaking. This is a general issue for me with everyone, as I usually wait for others to initiate conversations before responding. Although I can mask my struggles in social situations for a short time, it becomes challenging for me to sustain this behavior. Since children often require you to approach them first, I find it particularly hard to engage with my nieces and nephews, who are the first children I have ever interacted with. As a result, I lead a socially isolated life and rarely leave my house. Recently, my mom asked me to attend my nephew's birthday party. I agreed to go but mentioned that I wouldn't be able to stay for an extended period due to feeling exhausted in intense social settings. My mom, who usually spends the whole day at such gatherings, became upset and accused me of being selfish and horrible. She even went as far as to claim that my behavior is unacceptable and that I might not actually have autism, but rather using it as an excuse. While I understand that my actions may come across as rude, I genuinely struggle to communicate and often resort to freezing and staring blankly. This confrontation has left me feeling guilty. Providing some background, I spent a year in the hospital at the age of 11, where I received my autism diagnosis. I had to drop out of school due to overwhelming anxiety in classroom settings. Despite attempting to pursue college education 4 times, my struggles with attendance led to dismissal each time. However, I excelled in a distance learning university program. Presently, I am unemployed, having found face-to-face job meetings exhausting, often resulting in me freezing up. My mom believes that my intelligence and long-distance relationship with my boyfriend indicate that I am capable of normal social interactions and accuses me of using autism as an excuse. However, my boyfriend usually takes the lead in our communication, and I do find it challenging at times, with him expressing concerns over my passivity. While my mom claims that I dislike my niece and nephew, the truth is that I simply do not know how to engage with them. I feel conflicted, thinking that I might be at fault and should make more effort, but I tend to freeze in such situations. Moreover, I am worried about what my sister and her spouse think about my behavior, given my mom's assertion that they must be distressed by how I interact with their children. Am I the antagonist in this scenario? In essence, I have autism but outwardly appear typical. I struggle to connect with my niece and nephew, often inadvertently ignoring them. It sounds like you are dealing with a difficult situation where your struggles with communication due to autism are causing misunderstandings with your family. It's important to communicate openly with your loved ones about your challenges and find ways to bridge the gap in understanding so they can better support you in social interactions with your niece and nephew. Remember, it's okay to have difficulties in certain areas, and seeking understanding and patience from those around you is key to navigating these social situations successfully. Am I the antagonist for not knowing my friend's name? I, 17-year-old male, have this classmate in my class, age 17-18. I don't know. I just know he's a senior that I speak to on occasion. He speaks to me sometimes, but the conversations are usually one-sided, and I usually just nod and awkwardly chuckle because I don't hear him most of the time. But I do know he knows my name, I just don't know how. Our teacher doesn't even call the roll anymore, and I hardly speak in that class unless spoken to. Today we were in the carpool line, and a friend asked me why I wasn't in class today because he missed me, so I explained why. Then my brother arrived shortly after to pick me and our cousin up, and the friend called out to me to say goodbye as I was getting in the car. He does this often, but he usually says goodbye when I'm next to him. When we started driving off, my brother asked me who the friend was, and I told him that that was the friend. He then started questioning me further, asking me why I never talked about him and stuff, and then had the audacity to call me friendless, which is not true. After a while, I guess he got aggravated with me calling him a friend and asked me what his real name was. I told him that I honestly did not know, and the friend just started talking to me randomly one day. He got upset with me for not knowing his name and asked me how I didn't know. I told him that it was because he knew my name, which was weird. I said that I didn't want to ask him his name because that would just be embarrassing, which is why I started calling him a friend as a nickname, and the friend doesn't mind, so he shouldn't either. He asked me if the friend knew I didn't know his name, and I said that I wasn't sure, probably not, and then he just got angrier. He upset me because he knew my day was already ruined, and he was making it worse by trying to degrade me for something that doesn't involve him. He said that he finds it rude that I'm not taking the time and energy to learn the friend's name when he did that for me. I told him that I would have done the same thing, but the difference was he didn't introduce himself or anything. He just started talking to me like he knew me personally, and that's why I never asked him. He then said that it was my fault and that I should try to engage more in class. I told him that I tried to get our cousin to ask him his name, but she didn't want to do that because she wants to see me fail. He still didn't care and kept throwing insults at me, which hurt my feelings. I feel like he's blowing this out of proportion, and I feel like my brother doesn't like me in general, so I don't know if he's projecting or not. It sounds like there may have been a miscommunication between you and your brother regarding your interactions with your classmate. It's understandable that you may feel uncomfortable asking for someone's name, but it might be helpful to clarify the situation with your friend to avoid any further misunderstandings. Remember, it's okay to set boundaries and handle social interactions in a way that feels comfortable for you. Am I the antagonist for kicking my best friend out of my surprise proposal? My fiancé Mark, 30 years old male, planned a surprise proposal for me, 28 years old female, and invited all our family and friends. Among those friends is my best friend, Melissa, 28 years old female. 3 months ago, Melissa ended her relationship with her long-term boyfriend and has been pretty down since. I bring this up because I think it is relevant as to why she acted the way she did. Anyways, they were all there and Mark proposed to me, and it was wonderful. Of course I said yes, and we popped open a few bottles to celebrate. Drinks were flowing, and everyone was happy for us and congratulating us. While we were talking to Melissa, she made jokes like, "If you hurt her, I'll come for you." Just things like that. Whatever, we were all tipsy and having fun, so we didn't think anything of it. Melissa then pulled us aside and hugged us and cried. She said that if she hadn't broken up with her ex, she would have been in the same position as me. She told us how much she loved us, and then turned to me and said that when we got divorced, she will still be here for me. Mark said that that was a very inappropriate comment to make, and Melissa doubled down and said that it wasn't inappropriate or irrelevant because divorce happens all the time. I could tell that this wasn't a joke anymore, and Mark and Melissa were serious. At this point I got angry and I told her she needed to leave. She protested, but I got her an Uber and made her go home. The next day she wrote to me a long message about how I am an asshole for kicking her out like that. She said that she is happy for me and was only making a joke, and also that she is going through a lot, and me kicking her out only made her feel like she's lost everyone. I feel bad because I know that she would not have acted like that if she hadn't just broken up with her ex. Should I just have been patient and let her stay? Am I the asshole? I would like to add that Melissa and Mark have an okay relationship. They get along well, but really are only friends by association through me. They have never had any problems though. It sounds like Melissa might have been trying to lighten the mood with some dark humor, but may have missed the mark. Your reaction was understandable given the context, but it might be worth having a calm conversation with her to clear the air and address her feelings sensitively. Am I the antagonist for trying to convince my childhood friend to not work with me? So I have a childhood friend named Liz, and starting with middle school, high school, we sort of disconnected. But about 2 years ago, we reconnected as our parents are friends with each other, and we had Easter together. Liz has always been pretty weird, especially since then though, and Liz would be texting my siblings a lot since then, which they weren't really tolerating as they weren't that close to Liz. I, however, was the only one who could at least tolerate her, and Liz has been texting me for 2 years since then. However, I've given Liz multiple opportunities to hang out, and she would always come up with weird excuses, such as I'll check my schedule to see, and then never reach back to me. On my birthday, me and my friends went to a wine festival, and Liz showed up towards the end of the festival with one of her friends, and told me she would shop around before meeting us, to which I responded saying to meet us right then because the booths were shutting down, and then we can go to the stores. It being my birthday wasn't as much as Liz's concern as her focusing on the friend she brought. I've tried to bring up possibly seeking mental help, as Liz told me she struggles with it, particularly not doing well in school or work, and that her sister suggested she might have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. However, it seems like her pride seems to get in the way of things, because she told me the reason why she hadn't been diagnosed is that she doesn't want to feel there's anything wrong with her. Today Liz sent me a text saying that she applied for a position at the store I work at, and was interviewing tomorrow. I tried to convince Liz not to work there by saying I'm quitting soon. I have friends in that position and they find it stressful, and that she wouldn't like it. I haven't heard back, but I know that since Liz has a spotty resume and hasn't done well at her previous jobs, that it would be a bad look on me if she says she knows me. I'm not actually quitting soon, and the position isn't as bad as I made it out to be, but I'm hoping this will stop Liz from interviewing or taking a job offer there. It sounds like you've been very patient and understanding with Liz, but it's important to set boundaries in situations like this. It might be worth having an honest conversation with her about your concerns before things escalate further. Dismissing her potential mental health struggles could be counterproductive, but also remember your own well-being in this situation. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.